Hello there and welcome back to Bullets for Bucks. My name's Stephen Bresnaugh and today we're going to be comparing the Bergara Wilderness Ridge chambered in 300 PRC against the Howa 1500 or Howa HS Precision 1500, also chambered in 300 PRC. Now, both these rifles I've used extensively at the range, and they both are accurate and perform great. But we're going to dive more down into fit and feel and pros and cons of each, as well as my opinion on which is better than the other. Now, let's go ahead and just start by comparing the buttstock. The buttstock on the Wilderness Ridge is quite firm and substantial. It's firmer, or excuse me, more firm than a Ruger American, but not as firm as, say, a Winchester Model 70 recoil pad. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at the Howa 1500. Now, I just took the scope off of this one actually because I'm swapping it out and putting it on the other one, and then I'm going to put a different scope on this one and so on, in case you're wondering. The buttstock is a Pachmayr buttstock, or excuse me, the recoil pad on this Howa is a Pachmayr recoil pad, and it's actually quite firm and substantial as well. I would say it's maybe not quite as thick, but just as firm. Both do an adequate job mitigating felt recoil, and I really don't see the advantage of one over the other. They're both more than sufficient. Then moving forward to the stock materials, and I wish I had enough room in this tiny studio to fit both rifles in the same camera frame, but I can't do that. We have a polymer reinforced with fiber stock on the Wilderness Ridge with a nice, beautiful woodland camo paint job and a soft touch rubberized coating. So it's got a coating that feels almost like suede to the fingers, and then it has a rubbery touch that would keep you from letting it slip out of your hands in wet or rain or snow or what have you, but it's not so grippy that it catches on your clothing. Then coming forward, you have a checkered palm swell and a checkered forend, one sling swivel stud at the front, one sling swivel stud at the rear. The stock on the HS Precision is fiberglass reinforced with Kevlar and carbon fiber. Of course, it's made by HS Precision, and it features an aluminum bedding block inside the stock that mates up to the receiver for a very firm foundation, as well as it has set screws on either side right here for setting the recoil lug just in the right place, lining up the receiver and the barrel so that it is even down the barrel channel, and of course it is adequately and sufficiently free-floated along the barrel. When you're looking at the stock and stock materials, although the Howa HS Precision doesn't have the soft rubbery coating, it is just plain better. It's made of real fiberglass. It is more rigid. It doesn't flex and make contact with the barrel in the barrel channel on the stock. Whereas if you take the Wilderness Ridge, Bergara Wilderness Ridge, and flex it, it makes contact pretty easily with the barrel. Although it is sufficiently free-floated, it's only going to do that if you put stress, such as loading a bipod hard on it or something like that. It's only going to make contact under stress. But you can see here that, let me see if I can get my hand in the right spot. You can push this thing and it's just not going to budge and touch and make contact with that barrel. I would say the stock is just way better. It has fiber, it's true fiberglass. It's reinforced with Kevlar and carbon fiber materials. It has an aluminum bedding block built into it, so it's going to be a better, more firm and sure foundation to the receiver once it's mounted in. Then we come down. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about the bottom metals on each one. Both feature a floor plate that is made of metal and a trigger guard that is made of metal. They're both 3+1 in the 300 PRC chambering, so they both can fit 3 in the magazine. You simply release the floor plate, excuse me, by pushing that lever, and the follower is also metal here. The one on the Bergara is aluminum. The one on the Howa right here has a little bit nicer design. I feel like down here you push in this lever. This one's used a bit more, and it does have a plastic follower, however. So, but this one is made of, I believe, real steel. So really, trigger guard, floor plate, both metal, both sufficient. I wouldn't put one over the other really. Maybe put the Bergara over the Howa in the fact that it has a metal follower, but really they're both very good. Basically a tie there. Now let's talk about the trigger. Oh, and by the way, both have metal sling swivel studs at the front and the rear. The Howa does as well. I think I forgot to mention that. Now let's talk about the trigger. The Bergara features a Bergara performance trigger. It's held together by rivets, so you can't really take it apart and do a trigger job to it. But it's factory adjustable, and mine came from the factory at about 3 pounds. But let's go ahead and just triple check. I've already made sure off video that it's not loaded and there's nothing in the magazine area. It's a single stage trigger. Absolutely no creep. I mean, there's zero creep. There is a bit of over travel, a little more over travel than I would like, but a very good trigger from the factory. And I was able to adjust it down using the adjustment set screw to just under 2 pounds. So, wow, really good factory trigger there. All right, now let's take a look at the Howa hacked 2-stage trigger and compare it against the single stage Bergara trigger. Now, one thing to note is that the trigger on the Howa can be adjusted, but it requires more work, isn't really user adjustable from the factory, but you can easily perform a trigger job on it, although I do not recommend that for legal reasons. The trigger does come apart with pins. Now, you can make sure it's empty there. It has a nice even first stage, coming to the second stage, hit a hard wall. Beautiful. I would say there's less over travel, absolutely no creep on the second stage, and it breaks nicely. From the factory though, and user adjustment wise, you can't get the Howa hack 2-stage trigger as light as you can the Bergara, but you can more easily do a trigger job to the Howa and then get it down to literally like a pound. So there's the pros and cons there. I personally like the Howa hack 2-stage trigger because I can perform a trigger job on it easily. However, and I do like 2-stage triggers. However, the Bergara trigger is very nice. It's user adjustable. I would say, let's call it a tie. Some are going to say they like the Bergara better, and that's fine. Now let's go ahead and talk about the action. Now the action on the Howa, or the receiver I should say on the Howa, is one-piece forged metal, okay? So they actually forged the metal receiver, and the recoil lug, which sits in here, is huge and hefty, and it's one-piece part of the receiver. On the Bergara, I've heard differing information. I'm not quite sure if it's forged or if it's bar stock or what it is, but I would say it's just as high quality, except for the fact that the recoil lug is sandwiched between the barrel and the receiver like a Remington 700. Only Bergara has a recess in the receiver where the recoil lug sits into. So I would say it's a little bit nicer design than the Remington 700 in that regard. Both receivers are very good. I just prefer that the receiver be one part of the recoil lug, not separate from it. Now let's take a look at how smooth they run in the action, how smooth the bolt runs in the receiver. The Howa has a 90-degree throw, and some other models do come with a tactical bolt knob or threaded bolt handle. This one does not. It runs smoothly. There's a little bit of zipper sound. I would say it's better than most rifles out there. It feels high quality, but not perfect. Not as smooth as a Tikka T3X. Also a 90-degree bolt throw, but this one does come with a threaded bolt handle and a nice tactical aluminum bolt knob. Definitely smoother. They have a polished bolt body, which is probably part of the reason. So definitely smoother, and it glides a little bit easier in the receiver. So in regards to manipulating the bolt handle and running the bolt back and forth, I would say the Bergara is better. It is smoother, and it just feels a little bit more refined. Now let's take a look at the actual design of the bolt. So the bolt release on a Howa is going to be right here. You're just going to push this little tab in and the bolt will come out. I'm going to take the bolt out of the Bergara. The Bergara has a substantial lever right here on the side. You press that, pull the bolt right out. Both chamberings in 300 PRC are, of course, long action. Both these rifles come in 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, 300 Win Mag, and a bunch of other chamberings that include short action and long action. So coming first to the Howa, you're going to see it has 2 locking lugs, a plunger ejector, and a nice Seiko-style long heavy-duty extractor. The one thing to note is that the bolt body and bolt handle are one-piece forged metal. So extremely strong, no chance of that thing breaking on you or the bolt handle breaking off. On the Bergara, it has this nice polished body on it. It is 2 locking lugs as well. Has ejector. It has a nice plunger ejector and it has a sliding plate extractor. So different type of extractor. Bergara has had issues with their extractors failing quite a bit, although quality control has gotten better. So that is something to take note of. I've never had a Howa fail and I've had a ton of them. One thing also to note is the Howa bolt comes apart much easier if you're going to remove the firing pin, excuse me. So to remove the firing pin on a Howa, you're simply just literally going to turn it clockwise and it's going to come right out for cleaning, maintenance, or to observe it and make sure it's working properly. Put it back in, you're just going to push it down and twist it and it's right back in. On the Bergara, it is harder. I'm not even going to demonstrate it because it's significantly harder. It does feature a nice cocking indicator with a red paint tab at the rear of your firing spring on the Bergara. On the Howa, you just have this piece of round metal here, and it doesn't have a color indicator, but it does indicate whether or not it's cocked. So as far as the bolts themselves, I prefer the Howa. I like the Seiko style extractor better. And I like the fact that it's forged one piece with the bolt handle. I feel like it's a little bit stronger, better design. I also feel like the way the firing pin comes out of it is just better. But that will leave up to you to decide. Let's go ahead and now let's talk about the safeties. Let's put the bolt back into the Howa first. I have this cheek guard on here. I have this Alright, so the safety design on the Howa is 3 position. All the way forward is you can work the action, pull the trigger. 1 back in the middle position, you can unload the weapon, but the trigger you cannot fire. All the way to the rear locks the bolt and the trigger. It is worthy to note that this is cheap stamped metal for both the bolt release and the safety, which although it works great, it doesn't have the most expensive feel to it. On the Bergara, you have a 2-position safety with a colored dot for both fire and safe. All the way forward, you of course can fire the weapon and manipulate the bolt. 1 back, in that position, you can still manipulate the bolt, load, unload, but you cannot fire. So the actual lever for the safety itself is more beefy and has a nicer design to it, as well as the bolt release. But I really prefer the 2-position or 3-position safety that locks the bolt and bolt handle in place. I've had the bolt come open and a round come out while backpacking or holding it, caught on limbs, branches, or rubbing on my backpack. There are reports of people losing their bolt, although that's extremely rare. But I do like a safety option that locks the bolt in place. So for that reason, I prefer the Howa's safety design. Now, the barrel on the Howa is cold hammer forged, and this one features a 24-inch barrel. It's threaded 1/2 by 28. So most muzzle brakes for 30 cal are not 1/2 by 28, they're 5/8 by 24, so you have to usually get an adapter to be able to put a muzzle brake on this. It features a number 2 contour barrel, I believe, on this model, but they do come in different variations. And of course, the receiver and barrel on the Howa is just traditional blued. It's a very good bluing job, but it's blued. On the Bergara, on this model, it's sniper gray Cerakote on the receiver, the barrel, and the muzzle brake. The barrel on this is a contour number 5, so it's a heavier contour. And it comes threaded 5/8 by 24, and it comes with this Omni brake, which is quite nice. So this brake is designed basically for hunting. It's a nice medium point between the report, the loudness of it, and the bulk and heaviness of a bigger brake. So if you didn't have a brake at all, it would be quite a strong recoil on a 300 PRC. It does a nice job mitigating felt recoil, but it's not bulky and heavy or super loud like some brakes are, and it fits very flush because it comes from the factory, so that's a nice added benefit. So in the rifle barrel on this one is made of 4140 chromoly steel, and it's button rifled. All right, so as far as barrels, here's where it gets interesting. I had a Bergara HMR a couple years ago, and I said, don't buy Bergara, it's terrible, horrible. I lost a lot of money on that Bergara HMR, wasn't happy with it. It wouldn't shoot a 3-inch group by the time I was done with it. It was defective. And there was a lot of reports, especially early on, that there was a lot of lemons with Bergara, both with the extractors and with accuracy issues. I think that Bergara is remedying these quality control issues, and I hope that in the future, when I've tested more Bergara rifles, I can say, hey, you know what? I can recommend Bergara. At this time, I'm not quite there yet. This is like their second chance with me. This one is performing great. It's feeding, it's ejecting, it's shooting great, it's accurate. Both of these rifles, I would say, are shooting equally accurate, and we will have videos on both of these rifles shooting at the range so you can see those results. With factory grade rifles, it's going to depend a lot on the rifle you get. I've consistently never had a Howa, though, that has shot bad or that hasn't been capable of sub-MOA accuracy with factory ammo, and I have had Bergara that wasn't capable of that consistently. So I don't want to say one barrel is better than the other. They're both good. Just be wary that Bergara might still have some more lemons in the pack than Howa. I do like that it's Cerakoted. The biggest thing is that I like that it's 5/8 by 24 threaded, and I like that it comes with a muzzle brake. I think that Howa would do well to produce more rifles that are made for hunting, that are threaded 5/8 by 24, and that do come with a muzzle brake. All right, so now that we've gone over pretty much all of the basics, I did forget to mention that the bolt nose on the bolt and the breech in the Bergara are coned for easier feeding and extraction and so on, whereas on the Howa they are not. Do I notice a difference? No, I don't. Both work great in the field. Really can't say that I noticed the difference there, though. Now we're going to go. All right, so we've taken the Bergara barreled action out of the stock, and let's take a look at the inside of this stock. Like I said, it is polymer reinforced with fibers. It does have a tiny bit of twist to it if you torque it hard enough. The inside has reinforcing along the barrel channel, a spot for the recoil lug, and then it has these epoxy pillars for pillar bedding. I would like to see those metal. I don't understand why they used epoxy, but maybe it's better, and I just don't know. Then you come forward to the barreled receiver here, and we can see that the trigger mechanism or trigger body is held in with 2 pins. I prefer a trigger body that is held in with 1 screw, such as a Tikka T3X or a Howa hack trigger. Of course, you have your adjustment screw that's closest to the receiver is the one for adjusting the weight of the trigger pull. Receiver screw here, or hole for the receiver screw. You have a front receiver screw hole here, a rear receiver screw at the tang. Then right here you have a recoil lug that's quite substantial that sits into a recess in the receiver and is sandwiched between the barrel and the receiver. So it's not one part part of the receiver like I like to see. It's separate, but it does sit into a recess in the receiver and is sandwiched between the barrel and the receiver. I would like to see this become one piece here, and I feel like there's more integrity to a receiver that has the recoil lug one part of the receiver. Alright folks, so now let's take a look at the Howa. Now it's important to note that I did glass bed this stock, but it was not necessary and didn't really do any significant improvements to the accuracy. But you'll see here on the bottom that you have nice solid aluminum pillars that are actually one part of the aluminum bedding block that's embedded in this fiberglass. And then you have here at the top, this would normally just all be aluminum here and here, but I have glass bedding on top of it. That being said, this entire chunk in here is machined aluminum, and so that creates a lot more rigidity and a better foundation for the receiver to sit in the stock. You'll see here on the bottom that you have a nice flat bottom receiver that's forged steel, and then you have a hefty, very hefty recoil lug that's integral part of the receiver, so it's been forged as part of the receiver. Then at the rear you have this super hefty trigger body, and it's held in by one screw right here, which I feel is just a lot better design than the Bergara. Alright, so in closing, both rifles weigh 7.9 pounds. Both are designed primarily for hunting. Both are extremely accurate. Both are very reliable. Really, which one's better? Well, you're going to have to decide that. The action's slightly smoother in the Bergara than the Howa. It comes with a barrel that's threaded, more adaptable for a muzzle brake, and it does include a muzzle brake. So those are benefits. However, the Howa comes with a much better stock that is not polymer. It's fiberglass reinforced with Kevlar fibers, and it has an aluminum bedding block built into the stock. It's a very high quality stock. So which one do you decide? The receiver's built, in my opinion, more solid and better in the Howa, but the Bergara gets the job done. Both triggers are excellent. I lean towards Howa, but if I see better quality control or more consistently good rifles being produced by Bergara that don't have any issues, I feel that I could strongly endorse and recommend both manufacturers, both brands. I hope you enjoyed this review of Howa versus Bergara, and if you did, go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to hearing back from you.